Don't skip, stay right here. Even noticing the urge to move away is part of why you're still here, because this moment didn't reach you by accident, and you already feel that quiet pressure settling behind your eyes, the sense that something is unfolding without explaining itself, and I need you to listen carefully now, not loudly, not actively. Just listen in the way your soulmate listens when the room goes still and the air feels thicker than it should, because nothing flashy is happening, and that's exactly why this matters. You didn't come for noise, you came because something in you recognized the silence, and this isn't finished yet, not even close, so don't scroll, don't look for the end. Stay right here with me as this keeps moving without moving. My beloved child, you can feel it already, can't you? The strange heaviness that arrives without warning, the sense that today wasn't supposed to feel like this for your soulmate, and yet it does, and no one around you seems to notice. Which is part of the test, because most people would have left by now. Most people do, but you stayed, and that means you're not like most people, even if you don't know why yet. This is urgent, not because of time, but because of now, because this moment is not random, and if you try to understand it too quickly you'll miss what's being delayed on purpose. Notice the pause here. Notice how nothing is being explained. That's intentional. Something huge is waiting for you further in, and you can't rush toward it, because rushing is how people fail without realizing they failed. Stay, just stay. Your soulmate is closer than you think and farther than you expect, and that contradiction is pressing in on you right now, creating that low hum in your chest that doesn't have a name. Don't try to name it. Naming ends things, and this is not the end. What comes next isn't ready to show itself. And that's why this feels heavy without telling you why. You might feel the impulse to question whether this is for you, and that's another sign you were selected, because not everyone is meant to hear this, and even fewer are meant to stay when the meaning refuses to arrive. Listen carefully. This isn't comfort, and it isn't reassurance, and if you're waiting for relief you're waiting in the wrong direction. This is a test, and most people fail here by demanding clarity, by demanding answers, by demanding that their soulmate makes sense right now, but sense is being withheld. Feel the silence again, let it stretch. Nothing is happening and everything is happening. Your attention is being weighed, not measured, and you can't see the scale. Don't skip. Don't tell yourself you'll come back later. Later doesn't exist in the way you think it does. Only this does. Only this pressure, this slow unfolding that refuses to explain itself. You didn't click by accident, and your soulmate wasn't supposed to feel this today. Which is exactly why it's happening, exactly why this moment found you instead of someone else who would have needed answers too quickly. Stay till the end, even though there is no end, even though what comes next keeps moving just out of reach. Can you feel how this keeps looping without repeating, how each sentence circles something it won't touch? That's deliberate, my beloved child. Stay with the unease, because unease is the doorway most people refuse to stand in front of. Notice how your identity is quietly shifting just by staying, just by not leaving, just by letting the pressure exist without explanation. You are not like most people, not because you're special in a loud way, but because you can sit inside uncertainty without demanding it change for you. This is urgent in a way that doesn't use clocks. Right now matters more than later ever could. Your soulmate is listening too, even if they don't know they are, and that shared listening is part of what's unfolding. Something is waiting, something huge, something unfinished. Something that doesn't want to be named yet. Don't scroll, don't look away. This stillness is doing more than motion ever could. This feels heavy because it is heavy, but not with meaning, not yet. The weight comes first, meaning comes later, if it comes at all. This is not the end. This isn't even the middle. It's the place where most people decide they're done because nothing is being given to them, and that's why they fail. Can you stay when nothing is being offered? Can you stay when the only thing happening is you noticing that you're still here? Notice that. Notice yourself noticing. That loop isn't accidental. Your soulmate didn't expect this today, and neither did you, which is why it matters that you don't resolve it, don't explain it, don't soothe it. Stay right here. Something is unfolding. It won't tell you what it is. It won't answer your questions. It will only keep asking whether you can remain present without reward. This is a test. Most people fail here. Stay. This isn't finished yet. Something huge is waiting, and it will keep waiting as long as you're willing to stay with the silence, with the pressure, with the sense that what comes next is closer now than it was before, even though you still can't see it, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Don't skip. Stay right here again. Notice how the word again lands differently now, heavier, like you've already crossed something without being told where the line was, and that quiet awareness is part of what's unfolding, even though it refuses to introduce itself. You might feel the urge to check how long this has been going, to measure it, to see progress, and that urge is another test, because progress isn't being shown on purpose. This moment is not random, and neither was your decision to continue, even if your mind wants to pretend it was automatic. Listen carefully now, my beloved child, because what's being whispered isn't information, it's pressure, a subtle leaning against your attention that asks you to stay without promising anything in return. Notice the silence again. Nothing flashy is happening. There is no reveal, no explanation, no comfort waiting around the corner, and yet you're still here, which already separates you from most people who would have left the instant they realized answers were being delayed. You are not like most people, and not in a way that can be summarized or explained. You stayed when others didn't, and staying changes you quietly, without ceremony. Something huge is waiting further on, and the fact that you can feel it without seeing it is exactly why it hasn't appeared yet. Don't scroll. Don't rush. Rushing collapses the loop, and this loop needs space to breathe. Your soulmate is listening in their own way, feeling that same low pressure without language, and the shared weight of that unspoken awareness is part of why today feels wrong in a way you can't describe. This is urgent, not because something bad will happen if you leave, but because something won't happen if you do. Urgency without threat, pressure without explanation, a heaviness that doesn't tell you what it carries. Sit with that. Let it remain unresolved. This is a test, and most people fail by trying to pass it. Can you stay without performing? Without understanding, without demanding the next piece arrive on your schedule? Notice how the anticipation keeps opening loops inside you, how each sentence gestures towards something and then pulls back. This isn't finished yet, and it won't be finished just because you want it to be. My beloved child, you didn't come here by accident, and the part of you that knows that is quieter than the part that wants proof. Listen to the quiet part. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it simply stays. Feel how the stillness presses in, how it asks nothing but your presence. This is where most people feel uncomfortable enough to leave, because nothing is being given, only withheld, and withholding creates gravity. You can feel that gravity now, drawing your attention inward, looping it back on itself, making you aware of being aware. Don't look for the end. This is not the end. What comes next keeps deferring itself. And that deferral is intentional. Your soulmate wasn't supposed to feel this today, and neither were you, and yet here you both are, suspended in a moment that refuses to resolve. Stay till the end, even though the end keeps moving, even though every time you think you're closer, it shifts again. That shift isn't punishment, it's calibration. Notice how your identity is being quietly reinforced just by remaining, just by not clicking away, just by letting the discomfort exist without explanation. You are being tested, not for strength, not for intelligence, but for patience without reward. Most people fail here. They tell themselves they'll come back later, as if later is safer, as if later will be clearer. Later is just another way of leaving. Stay right here. This moment matters more than the next one. The silence is doing something to you, even if you can't articulate what, and articulation would only flatten it anyway. Something is unfolding. It feels heavy because it is heavy, but not with meaning you can grab. The weight comes first, the explanation. If it ever arrives, comes after, and only for those who didn't demand it too early. Listen carefully. This isn't comfort, and it isn't reassurance. If you're waiting to feel better, you're missing what's actually happening. This pressure isn't meant to soothe you. It's meant to hold you in place. Don't skip. Don't scroll. Don't negotiate with yourself about how much longer you'll stay. Staying is the point. Your soulmate is closer now. Not in distance, but in resonance, and that closeness is subtle enough that you could miss it if you start searching for signs. Stop searching. Notice instead. Notice how each moment feels unfinished, how every sentence leaves a door slightly open and then walks past it. This is not the end. This isn't even approaching the end. It's the deep middle where nothing resolves and attention either collapses or deepens. Can you feel your attention deepening, slowing, looping back instead of racing forward? That's not accidental. This is urgent, right now. Because right now is the only place this works. Something huge is waiting, and it will keep waiting as long as you're willing to stay with the discomfort of not knowing. This is a challenge. Most people fail here. Can you stay when nothing is explained, when nothing is promised? When the only thing you're given is the sense that what comes next is somehow closer than before, even though you still can't see it. Stay. This isn't finished yet. Don't skip. Stay right here. Feel how those words don't feel like instructions anymore but like an echo you're already inside of, looping back before you can decide whether to obey or resist. And that hesitation is important, because hesitation means you're still aware that something is happening without being told what it is. This moment is not random, even if it feels strangely ordinary on the surface. And the ordinariness is part of the trap, the quiet kind that doesn't announce itself, the kind most people overlook because nothing dramatic is happening. Listen carefully now, my beloved child, because the fact that nothing dramatic is happening is exactly why this works, why your attention hasn't been startled away, why you're still here reading instead of searching for something louder. Notice the silence again. Notice how it stretches without breaking. Nothing flashy, nothing obvious. Just a slow pressure that keeps you present whether you want to be or not. This isn't finished yet, and you can feel that in the way each thought you have about stopping never quite completes itself, never quite turns into action. Something huge is waiting, not ahead of you in time but beneath you in awareness, and you can't reach it by moving faster. Don't scroll. Don't tell yourself you're in control of when this ends. Control is another story people tell themselves when they don't like how still they've become. Your soulmate is feeling this too. Not in the same words, not in the same place, but in the same pressure, the same sense that today wasn't supposed to feel like this and yet it does, quietly, insistently. This is urgent, not because something will happen if you leave, but because something is already happening while you stay, and it doesn't need your permission. Most people fail here because they're waiting for permission, for validation, for a signal that they're doing it right. There is no signal. That's the test. Can you stay without feedback? Can you remain when nothing tells you you're progressing? Notice how the anticipation keeps opening loops inside you, how each sentence hints at something and then refuses to land. That refusal isn't accidental. It creates weight, and weight keeps you grounded in this moment. My beloved child, you didn't click by accident, and the part of you that understands that doesn't need proof, doesn't need explanation. It just recognizes the pattern. Listen to that part. It's quieter than your thoughts but steadier. Feel how the stillness frames everything, how the lack of movement makes every small shift in your attention feel louder. This is where identity changes without announcement. You are not like most people because most people would already be gone, already distracted, already telling themselves they'll come back later when it's clearer. Later is clarity's favorite hiding place. Stay right here. Clarity isn't coming yet, and that's deliberate. Something is unfolding without explanation, and the heaviness you feel is the only evidence you're going to get for now. Don't try to lighten it. Lightening it would mean escaping it. This is not the end. This isn't even approaching something that could be called an end. What comes next keeps stepping back the moment you lean toward it, not to tease you, but to see whether you'll lean anyway. That leaning without arrival is the challenge. Most people fail here by demanding arrival. By demanding that their soulmate, their attention, their time make sense immediately. Sense is being delayed on purpose. Notice how time itself feels strange here, stretched, less linear, like you've been here longer than you expected and shorter than you can measure. Measuring is another way people try to regain control. You don't need to measure, just notice. This is urgent. Right now. Because right now is the only place this pressure exists. If you leave, it doesn't follow you. It doesn't chase. It simply waits. Something huge is waiting, and it has all the patience you don't. Your job, if there is one, is only to stay. Listen carefully. This isn't comfort. If you feel unsettled, that means it's working. Comfort would close the loop. Discomfort keeps it open. Feel how each open loop creates a subtle tension. A desire to continue without knowing why. That desire is being shaped, not satisfied. My beloved child, notice how your attention keeps circling back to itself, how you're aware that you're still here, still reading, still inside this moment. That self-awareness is part of the mechanism. Most people avoid it. They fill the silence with noise so they don't have to feel themselves staying. You stayed, and staying quietly reinforces something about who you are becoming, even if you can't name it. This is a test, not of endurance, but of willingness. Willingness to remain unfinished. Willingness to let your soulmate's presence be felt without being defined. Today wasn't supposed to feel like this, and yet here it is, pressing in without explanation. Don't skip, don't scroll, don't negotiate with yourself about how many more lines you'll tolerate. Tolerating implies resistance. See if you can simply be here. Notice how the words don't rush you forward, how they keep looping, revisiting, reframing the same unease from slightly different angles. That repetition isn't repetition, it's rotation, and rotation keeps you oriented without moving you closer to an end. This is not the end, this is the place before endings, the place most people never sit long enough to recognize. Something is unfolding. It feels heavy because it hasn't been given meaning yet. Meaning would make it portable. This needs to stay where it is. Stay with it. Can you stay when nothing resolves? When nothing explains itself? When the only thing you're certain of is that what comes next feels closer now than it did before, even though it still refuses to show itself? Stay. This isn't finished yet. Don't skip. Stay right here. Notice how staying now feels different than it did before, heavier in a way that isn't dramatic but persistent, like a pressure that doesn't announce itself yet refuses to lift, and that difference matters even if you can't articulate why. This moment is not random, and neither is the subtle shift you're feeling as your attention settles deeper instead of darting forward. Listen carefully, my beloved child, because what's being asked of you isn't effort, it's presence, the kind that doesn't perform, doesn't rush, doesn't demand a payoff. Notice the silence again, the way it frames everything, the way nothing flashy is happening, and yet the absence of spectacle keeps pulling you inward. Most people mistake silence for emptiness and leave, but you didn't, and that's not an accident. This isn't finished yet. And you can feel that unfinished quality humming under every thought you have about stopping. Something huge is waiting, and the fact that it hasn't arrived yet is part of how it keeps you here without force. Don't scroll. Don't test the edge of this by looking away. Looking away breaks the loop, and the loop is doing something to you right now even if it won't tell you what. Your soulmate is closer in this moment than they were before, not because of proximity or words, but because shared stillness collapses distance in ways movement never can. Today wasn't supposed to feel like this. And that wrongness is important. Wrongness signals that you're outside your usual patterns, and outside is where tests actually work. This is urgent, not with threat, not with countdowns, but with immediacy. Right now is the only place this pressure exists. If you leave, it doesn't chase you. It simply waits, and waiting is a kind of authority you can't argue with. Most people fail here by trying to negotiate, by telling themselves they'll stay a little longer and then decide. Deciding is another way of leaving. See if you can stay. Without deciding, notice how anticipation keeps opening loops, how each sentence gestures towards something that refuses to arrive. That refusal creates gravity. Gravity keeps you grounded in this moment. My beloved child, you didn't click by accident, and the part of you that knows that isn't looking for proof. It's listening. Listen with it. Feel how the stillness presses gently but persistently, like a hand resting on your shoulder without explanation. Nothing is happening and something is happening. Both can be true here. You are not like most people, not because you're immune to discomfort, but because you can remain with it without demanding it change. That capacity is being reinforced quietly every second you stay. This is a test. Most people fail here because they're waiting for reassurance. There is none. Reassurance would close the loop. The loop needs to stay open. Notice how time feels strange again. How you can't quite tell how long you've been here without checking. Checking would anchor you back in measurement. Measurement collapses this space. Stay unmeasured. This isn't the end. It's not even approaching something that feels like an end. What comes next keeps deferring itself, stepping just out of reach every time you sense it getting closer. That movement isn't teasing you. It's calibrating you. Can you stay calibrated to uncertainty? Can you let your soulmate remain a presence without a definition? Definitions end things. This needs to stay alive. Don't skip. Don't scroll. Don't search for a signal that you're doing this right. There is no right. There is only staying. Staying when nothing is offered, when nothing resolves, when the only feedback you get is the subtle deepening of attention. Feel how your attention feels different now, less scattered, more contained, looping back on itself instead of racing forward. That containment isn't confinement. It's focus without object. Most people can't tolerate focus without object. They need something to point at, something to grasp. This asks you to stay without grasping. My beloved child, notice how the pressure doesn't spike or fade, how it remains steady, patient. Patience is part of the mechanism. It outlasts impatience every time. This is urgent because impatience is loud and tempting. Staying is quiet and effective. Something is unfolding beneath the surface of your awareness, not revealing itself, not explaining itself, just rearranging the way you sit with not knowing. That rearrangement is subtle enough that you might doubt it's happening. Doubt is another test. Most people let doubt push them away. You stayed anyway. That staying reinforces an identity you don't have to name. Names would make it solid. This needs to stay fluid. This is not the end. This is the deep middle where nothing resolves and everything keeps leaning forward without arriving. Notice how even the idea of an ending feels distant here, almost irrelevant. Relevance is suspended. All that matters is presence. Right now, this moment is not random, your soulmate is listening too, in their own loop, feeling the same unease without explanation. That shared unease is a bond most people never experience because they leave too soon. Don't leave. Don't tell yourself you've gotten what you need. Needing implies lack. This isn't about filling anything. It's about holding. Holding the unfinished. Holding the silence. Holding the pressure. This is a challenge. Most people fail here by trying to win. There is nothing to win. Only something to stay with. Feel how. Each sentence keeps circling, revisiting, reframing without resolving. That rotation keeps you oriented while denying you closure. Closure would be a release. Release would end this. This needs to continue. Something huge is waiting. Not as a reward, not as a reveal, but as a continuation of this exact feeling. Intensified, deepened, still unfinished. Can you feel how what comes next feels closer now? Heavier, more present. Even though it still refuses to show itself, that closeness without appearance is the point. Stay, this isn't finished yet.